What's going on, YouTube? What's going on, everybody? I wanted to give you my final thoughts before the big fight tomorrow between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. I did see the weigh-in, I did see the press conference, and I want to quickly recap those and just give you my views on everything. I did do a breakdown the other day. I'm not changing my pick, but I mean, you can really, it's just too many unknowns to really have a clear view of how the fighters is gonna, how this fight is gonna play out, and even though I like to break down the styles and the flaws and experience and all of the stuff and things that we actually seen them do in the ring, there's really a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of extra factors going into this fight. Conor moving up, to 160, and this is his first fight up there. Chris Eubank, obviously, the rehydration clause, his age, stuff like that. So I really don't know how this fight is going to play out. Most people are concerned mostly about the rehydration clause in a way. Chris Eubank did miss weight by a half of a tenth of a pound. It cost them $500,000, probably the most expensive half of a tenth of a pound ever. you know but it is what it is. Okay. I just want to bring up a few things, and none of this factors into my prediction, okay, of how I think the fight is going to go. Again, it's really unknown. It's really, you really can't call it. Anything can happen. I could see Conor winning this on points. I can see him winning by stoppage. I could see Chris winning on points. I could see him winning by stoppage. Okay. Nothing would be really surprising to me if Conor Benn were to blitz Chris Eubank and knock him out within the first 3 or 4 rounds. It wouldn't really shock me, to be honest. I wouldn't know. I don't know. Anything can happen here. All right. But a few things that I wanted to mention first. Does it, in let me know in the comments, does it seem like both of these fighters are looking to play the hero going into this fight a little too much? Like, not just the fighters, but like the promoters. I'm talking about the presser. I'm talking about the weigh-in, all of the interviews. It just seems like every time or every opportunity these guys get to talk or do an interview, it seems like they're trying to win the public's eye over. You have Conor Benn and Eddie Hearn, who's over here. Eddie does these interviews talking about Chris and his weight and how he agreed to weigh in, do this rehydration clause, and how he's always been fighting at 160. And that's true. That is all true. And how Conor, no one's talking about how he's moved up 2 divisions to fight Chris Eubank. And in response to that, first of all, he's not moving up 2 divisions. Okay. I believe it's been a few years now since we seen Conor Benn fight at 147, right? And I just want to fact check that. The last fight at 147 was in April of 2022 against Chris Van Heerden, not even a elite fighter. This is just a guy that, let's be real, this is a guy that who Jerron Boots and Errol Spence beat up. I mean, that's what he's known for, right? No disrespect. He hasn't fought since then. He's retired. I never heard of Hearn until Spence fought him back in 2015, 10 years ago. I remember watching that fight. Boots beat him up in 2020, 5 years ago, because he got beat up by Spence. All right. It was a no contest. I think there was a headbutt or something like that, but Boots was beating him up until then. And then Conor Benn beat him in 2022 after the guy hadn't fought in nearly 2 years. That was in 2022. So he's not moving up 2 divisions. All right. His last 2 fights was at 154. So let's make that clear. You know, Mikey Garcia moved up 2 divisions to fight Errol Spence. Kell Brook moved up 2 divisions to fight Triple G. Terrence Crawford is now moving up 2 divisions to fight Canelo Alvarez. You know, and if you can even make a stronger case in that sense, because Crawford just only had 1 fight at 54 recently. You know what I mean? But regardless, it's 2 divisions. So it's only 1 division for Conor Benn. All right, it's been years. That's the first thing. Second thing is, this fight would have happened 3 years ago if Conor Benn didn't pop dirty on that drug test. So all of this moving up 2 divisions, you know, yeah, I get it. You know, I get Eubank. Okay, yes, he's been fighting at 160. I agree. I was about to say that next. But at the end of the day, Conor Benn is the one that failed the drug test. Conor Benn is the one that it's his fault that the first fight didn't happen. You know? And yes, Chris Eubank said, you should have fought me the first time. Because there was a catch weight the first time at 57 or 58 or something like that, below 160, at a weight that Eubank never fought at. You know what I'm saying? Not as a pro. And I believe there was a rehydration clause. So, no, Conor Benn is not the hero going into this fight. He's not doing nothing going up in weight. And I mean, yes, he's going up in weight. And I give him credit for doing that. But I gave him credit for doing that the first time around when he actually went up 2 divisions to fight Eubank. But he ruined that opportunity, or his camp or whoever's responsible. I'm not saying he knowingly took drugs, but at the end of the day, that's not Eubank Jr.'s fault. Everything surrounding this fight, not everything, but a lot of things surrounding this fight right now, we didn't have to deal with that going into the first fight. So the problem I have with Conor Benn in this situation is him and his people are making it seem like they're victims and they're not giving the credit for moving up. We're 3 years too late. Now, as far as Chris Eubank, yes, I agree with Team Eddie. Chris Eubank is making it seem like he's killing himself to make 160. You have been fighting at 160 for a while now. Your run up at 168 was a while ago at this point. You know, if you are the IBO champion in this situation, let it go. All right, you've been fighting at 160. I understand the rehydration clause might kill you, but he's making it seem in every interview, including the press conference and stuff, like they're doing this criminal thing. Your criminal thing that you are getting paid a whole lot of money, a career high purse for, whatever it is. You're getting paid a lot of money to take this fight that you agreed on. You didn't have to fight Conor Benn. You got to remember, guys, let's not forget 3 years ago and even years before that, Chris Eubank's name has been mentioned with Canelo Alvarez, with Triple G. I got content talking about these fights years ago. Jamal Charlo. You know what I'm saying? Rematches with Billy Joe. I'm not even talking about 168 guys. I'm talking to guys at 160 at one point. His name has been mentioned with so many different potential fights that just didn't take place. And I'm not blaming all of those fights on him for not taking place. But let's be real. You don't have to fight this guy. There's a lot of money involved in a fight. And yes, they are going to drain you because they feel they need to have an advantage of you. Okay, cool. That's part of the sport. But if you feel like it's too much, like you felt like it was too much, I thought it was too much the first time, coming down to a few pounds below 160. I thought it was too much before. At least now there's no catch weight. It's just the rehydration clause. You are not a victim because, like you said in the first fight, you're only coming in 60%. Now you're not doing the percentages now because you're in a more serious state of mind, and that's cool. But at the end of the day, you're not going to be 100%. There is a handicap because you are fighting a smaller guy. You know what I mean? Him moving up to you at 160 originally was a two-weight jump, and you wanted the money. And this is why your father is not playing any role in this fight, which I'm going to speak on in a minute. But I just want to say for Chris Eubank, who seems to have the majority of the boxing public on his side because of the failed drug test with Conor Benn. I don't normally see people in support of Chris Eubank Jr. Not as much as I do in this fight. There's still people that dislike him and are rooting against him, but I see more support here more than any other fight that he's been involved in. People like to see him lose. But you're not a victim. Neither of you guys are. You're making a lot of money. And you guys are fighting off your father's names. Okay. Which is my next point. I'm going to change directions here a little bit. I saw the press conference. I seen Eubank Sr., his interviews and stuff like that. I'm really, really bothered by this. I think Chris Eubank Sr. not being involved in this, calling his son a disgrace. Not just the fight, but he's calling his son as a disgrace. The fact that Chris Eubank said, I haven't talked to his father in years, that really bothered me. I don't know about you guys, but when I watched that, whatever fun and excitement that I had for the fight, it just completely it completely like disappeared. Like I just was like listening to him talking about his pain. And I know these guys are trying to sell the fight, but I mean, man, the tension and the energy in that room is nothing like it was in the first fight, when it was supposed to happen a few years back. I mean, it's not even like Nigel Benn being there. It doesn't even matter anymore. It doesn't even matter. This is not out of disrespect for the Benns and the Eubanks. I'm just being an honest boxing fan. As I'm watching this, I'm just saying to myself, like, this is not even about the fathers no more. Because you got one father that's in full of supporting his son, but his son, testing positive for the drug test. I hate to keep bringing it up. I have to. The public don't like him. Now, my thing about drug tests is like, when people fail them, we all attack them person at the time. But until you fail another drug test or something, like, we move on. You know what I mean? Like, some of my favorite fighters of all time failed drug tests before. It is what it is. I hate to say it, but it is what it is. Now, will they be brought up? Would it be brought up when we're talking about fighters? Absolutely. It should always be brought up. But we move on. Conor Benn, he's still young. He has the rest of his career to live and learn and move on from that. But at the end of the day, his father being full support and being there, it doesn't matter if Eubank Sr. is not involved. Again, no disrespect, but if Nigel Benn didn't show up, it wouldn't change anything for me. This fight is not about the rivalry between the fathers anymore. This is between these two. It's always been between these two, but the father thing is done. Because Chris Eubank Jr., he's taking this fight, and it's his biggest fight. Okay, and he's not young anymore, and I'm sorry, I just clicked on something. He's not young anymore, and this is a big fight, not just with the paycheck, but it's a big fight for him. It's a legacy fight for him, in a way, because this is the fight people are going to go back to first, and to not have your father in your corner or in support in any kind of way is sad. I feel bad for that family. They're clearly going through a lot. I hope they patch things up at some point, even after this fight is over. I think that is probably going to happen. Maybe they'll finally have that conversation after this fight is done. As far as Eubank Sr., I'm not in a position to tell him how to feel. But calling your son a disgrace is not the right way. You might not be in support of this fight, but calling him a disgrace is not the right way. Your son is very successful. He's given us some good fights, some good moments. He had a successful career. I mean, for him to be at this stage, I think legacy-wise, he hasn't done what his father did, but he's not a disgrace. He's just not. Even if you don't want to support what he's doing, calling him a disgrace is a little bit extreme. So I wanted to bring that up. It really bothered me, and it definitely, I'm still excited for the fight and everything, but it's just the rivalry thing is out the window for me. It's just a personal thing. Two guys that just don't like each other. But that was a very intense press conference. You can tell Chris is not even being funny. He's not even trying to sell any jokes and stuff. He's just being raw, going at Eddie, and he's taking the angle, bringing up the drug tests and everything. He's got his foot right on Conor's neck with that. He's not even trying to be low about it. And I think in a way, in order to sell the fight, or at least to get into your opponent's head, I think it's brilliant. Instead of being the guy that he was in the first fight, when he's walking around with a 60% jacket and he's going to dinner and he's eating all these big meals. Conor's not a big guy to sell a fight, he's not as talkative. It's like watching Derek Chisora against Joe Joyce. You know what I mean? It's like Derek is good at this kind of thing. Joyce is not. Conor is not a big talker. He talks. No, Conor is a almost fight kind of guy, where he's always running into guys that are potential opponents, and it's always some trouble there. Yeah. So, I wanted to bring that up. Now, as far as the weight, and as far as how I think everything is gonna go, I'm going to still stand with my pick. I already had put my money up for Chris Eubank Jr. to win by stoppage at some point. Again, if he is to get knocked out at some point, I really wouldn't be surprised. Because I really don't know how he's going to be in this fight. I don't know how good Conor is. I think Conor, to be honest, is doing everything right. He's not doing too much as far as engaging with Chris. He came at a great weight. He did what I think any guys that's coming up 2 divisions up should do. Don't be too heavy. I already thought that he slowed down a little bit when he moved up to 54, and I talked about that in a breakdown. He was at 50 against Peter Dobson. He was 150 against Peter Dobson, and he was 153.5 against Rodolfo Orozco. So being at 56 seems like the right, perfect place to be, where you don't want to be too heavy. You want to still be, you have that speed. You're the smaller guy. You're not going to be bigger than him anyway. You might as well just maintain your speed. He's going to be somewhat drained. You know what I mean? I don't know how effective. I don't know how it's going to affect him. And I'm talking about Chris in the fight, but he's already at a handicap. So what you want to do is maintain your speed. He's bigger than you. He ain't that bigger than you, but he is bigger than you. You know what I mean? So I think Conor Benn is doing everything to keep himself at his best, like physical fitness wise, going into a fight. Yeah, so the fight's tomorrow. I think I just brought up all the points. Again, I'm still gonna go with Eubank. I'm picking Eubank simply because of just his experience mostly, and all those factors that come with that. I think he can adjust. I think he has a good jab if he keeps his distance, uses length, his movement. Conor is very, very aggressive. He overextends, not a good defender. I just think that unless he's a completely different fighter for this fight, which could be the case, because you see guys step it up when they're at a certain level. So I'm expecting Conor to be the best version of him. Would it be enough? I don't know. We got to wait and see. But I'm picking Chris simply because of the experience. I'm just going to go with the guy that I think is going to figure it out. Maybe he might be too old. He might be drained. But I'm going to stick with him. All right. Yeah, so I'm going to be here tomorrow. All right. Covering the card. Hope you guys join in. All right. The chat. It should be a good day. And it's going to be a great week because we got another big monster weekend next week. So it's going to be a great week, and it's going to be a great weekend, and I can't wait to see you guys. All right. I'll see you guys soon. Y'all have a good night. Peace.